Quick question, why can't France simply leave the Sahel and Africa alone? The people have made it abundantly clear they want nothing to do with France. Anti-French sentiment is surging, and the expulsion of French troops from multiple Sahel countries sent a loud and unmistakable signal. Yet, despite all this, France remains determined to maintain its grip on the region. Why? The answer may lie in a shocking revelation from Mali. Authorities recently announced that among the soldiers arrested for orchestrating a coup, there was a French veteran spy. One name, one presence, and suddenly the question hits harder. Why is France so unwilling to step back from the three Sahel countries? When news broke of the foiled coup on August 7, 2025, the first reports streaming online were simple and incomplete. They claimed the plot was orchestrated entirely by a group of Malian soldiers. Over 24 individuals, including 2 of Mali's top generals, had been arrested for their alleged involvement. Official reports from the Malian government were yet to be released, leaving the world to speculate, wonder, and piece together the puzzle. The story, however, was already taking shape. A tale of betrayal, foreign interference, and a country fighting to reclaim its sovereignty. On August 15, 2025, Mali's military authorities finally broke the silence. In a televised address, Security Minister General Daoud Ali Mohamedine confirmed what had been swirling in whispers across the internet. A coup attempt had indeed been underway, targeting Colonel Assimi Goïta, the military leader of Mali. But here's the twist. This was no ordinary mutiny. General Daoud revealed that the plot had been orchestrated not only by soldiers, but also by civilians. And among them, a name that immediately caught global attention, a suspected French secret agent. The transitional government informs the nation of the arrest of a small group of marginal elements within the Malian armed and security forces for criminal offenses aimed at destabilizing the institutions of the republic, General Mohamedine announced, his words carrying the weight of national crisis. The conspiracy has been foiled, and those involved have been detained. According to the military, the plot began on August 1st. These soldiers and civilians had allegedly obtained the support of foreign powers. The French connection was explicit. A French national, identified as Jean-Christian Bernard Vézillier, was arrested on suspicion of acting on behalf of French intelligence. For Mali, this revelation was more than just a foiled coup. It was a stark reminder of external interference, a demonstration of how foreign powers still try to pull strings in the Sahel. And for the world watching, the question lingers. How deep does this involvement go, and what does it mean for the fragile stability of the region? But who exactly is this French operative caught in the middle of Mali's political storm? His name, Jean-Christian Bernard Vézillier. What we know is already remarkable. Vézillier served nearly 3 decades in France's Air Force, rising to the rank of lieutenant colonel. In 2020, he was awarded the National Order of Merit, France's second highest distinction, recognized officially in the French government's records. Pause for a moment and think about that. A decorated veteran, someone who has served his country with distinction, now arrested in Mali, a nation that has publicly expelled French troops and made clear it no longer welcomes France's military presence. What on earth could he possibly be doing there? The answer, Mali insists, is troubling. Authorities allege that Vézillier was not merely visiting. He was working with French intelligence, mobilizing local political leaders, civil society actors, and even members of the Malian military to orchestrate a coup against Colonel Assimi Goïta. Social media images of the suspect quickly circulated. A white man in his 50s wearing a plain white shirt, his face marked by a mix of alarm and tension, the unmistakable look of someone caught in a web far larger than himself. For Mali, and indeed for the world watching, Jean-Christian Bernard Vézillier has become the symbol of foreign interference, the human face behind the whispered suspicions of France's shadowy involvement in the Sahel. Mali's security minister didn't stop at foreign involvement. He confirmed that 2 of the country's highest-ranking generals were entangled in the plot. The first, General Abbas Dembélé, is a former governor of the Central Mopti region and widely respected among Malian soldiers. Known as a hands-on leader, Dembélé earned his reputation leading troops on the front lines during Mali's northern conflict in 2012. A brutal civil war triggered when Tuareg separatists joined forces with armed groups to seize over 60% of the country. The second, General Nema Sagara, has an equally impressive record. She was celebrated for her role in combating rebel groups during that same war and holds the historic distinction of being Mali's first female general. So far, authorities have arrested at least 55 soldiers, with investigations ongoing to uncover possible accomplices. The majority of the arrests came from Mali's National Guard, a branch where Defense Minister Sadio Kamara, a key figure in the current junta, once served. Amidst this turmoil, France has remained silent, offering no official response to the serious accusations. Does this silence suggest innocence or guilt? History offers a chilling reminder. Orchestrating coups in former colonies is a play France has executed countless times before. And now, Mali finds itself confronting the possibility that history may once again be repeating itself. As we all know, relations between France and Mali and the other two AES countries have completely collapsed since the rise of the military leaders. For anyone still questioning the motives of the AES, here's the truth you need to understand. France doesn't oppose these leaders because they are military officers. It's much simpler and much more revealing than that. France opposes them because they refuse to serve French interests. Take Niger as a case study. Before General Tiani seized power, Niger was under the leadership of Mohamed Bazoum, one of France's closest allies. With Bazoum at the helm, France had a free hand to protect both its military and economic footholds in the country. But the coup changed everything. A new leader emerged, independent and unwilling to bow to France's agenda, and that sent shockwaves in Paris. Imagine for a moment if General Tiani had quietly reassured the French authorities of his loyalty. What happened after the coup? The public tension, the sanctions, the diplomatic threats simply wouldn't have occurred. France would have endorsed Tiani, encouraged a smooth transition to civilian rule, and preserved the illusion of stability, all while keeping its influence firmly intact. Instead, Tiani's refusal to align with French interests triggered a predictable response: hostility, interference, and the relentless push to remove him from power. And this, my friends, is the real reason France is so desperate to meddle in the Sahel. Most likely, General Tiani would have won the election effortlessly with France's backing, and everything would have seemed fine on the surface. How can we be so sure? Because this exact playbook has unfolded not once, but 3 times in 3 different African nations. Take Chad, for instance. Chad was a steadfast French ally under the late President Idriss Déby. France didn't just support him, they helped him seize power through a coup. Over the next 3 decades, France protected him internationally, shielding his regime while securing its strategic interests. When Déby died in 2019, France orchestrated another coup, installing Idriss's son, Mohamed Déby, as the new leader. And yes, President Macron reportedly defended this coup publicly, claiming it was necessary for security reasons. The pattern repeats elsewhere. In Guinea, France initially backed leadership transitions, even though the current president has resisted a conventional military-to-civilian transition. Gabon, too, has seen the same script. France supporting allies who align with its strategic goals, regardless of whether they are military or civilian. Here's the key takeaway. France doesn't inherently oppose military rule. Its real problem emerges only when military leaders refuse to serve as loyal partners in protecting French interests. Independence, that is the crime in France's eyes. And the Sahel countries are now learning this harsh truth firsthand. Now let's return to Chad. After Mohamed Déby ascended to power with France's backing, he wasted no time. Elections were organized and, unsurprisingly, he emerged victorious. Behind the scenes, it was France pulling the strings. At that very moment, a wave of coups was sweeping across Mali and Burkina Faso, toppling regimes and challenging French influence. Suddenly, Chad's strategic importance for France skyrocketed. Even when Mohamed Déby quietly began strengthening ties with Russia, a country France loathes, Paris could do little more than watch. Why are we emphasizing this? Because it exposes a critical truth about the military leaders of the AES. Had they been motivated by personal power rather than national sovereignty, allying with France and the West would have been the path of least resistance. With French backing, they could have smoothly transitioned into civilian rule, retain their positions, and maintain the appearance of legitimacy on the world stage. Instead, they chose independence, rejecting Western support and asserting a stance that directly opposed France. And this is exactly why these leaders now face relentless pressure, destabilization attempts, and repeated coup plots. Their resistance has made them targets, not because they are military leaders, but because they refuse to serve foreign interests. History has shown us a harsh truth. Any African leader who dares to oppose the West risks isolation and ultimately removal from power. This is exactly what we are witnessing in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And make no mistake, if these leaders weren't exceptionally strong-willed, the outcome could have been far worse. Some might not even be in power today. So why choose this difficult path? Why take on the West when the easier road would have guaranteed stability, support, and international approval? The answer is simple and powerful. These leaders genuinely want change. They want a future where insecurity, poverty, and hardship no longer define their nations. They dream of growth, development, and progress. They are determined to lift their countries from the status of the world's poorest nations and reclaim their people's dignity. But their vision faces relentless opposition. Inside their countries, there are collaborators, politicians driven by greed and self-interest, while outside, France and other Western powers are committed to seeing their ambitions crushed. This reality was echoed by General Tiani in a recent interview, underscoring the immense pressure these leaders face simply for putting their people first. In a statement that sent shockwaves across Africa, General Tiani, the military leader of Niger, leveled a serious accusation against Western powers, naming both France and the United States. Speaking to Niger's national television RTN on May 30th, 2025, he claimed that these nations are actively working to destabilize the Confederation of Sahel states, not through direct confrontation, but through a complex web of intelligence networks, regional actors, and armed groups. General Tiani went further, revealing what he described as a vast, calculated conspiracy. He alleged that neighboring states, foreign intelligence services, and international actors are collaborating to sabotage the ambitious Sahelian Confederation. The most startling part? According to Tiani, there are two active French intelligence cells in the region. The first was reportedly established following the July 26, 2023 coup. Its leader, he claims, is none other than Jean-Marie Bockel, Emmanuel Macron's special envoy to Africa. This cell, Tiani asserts, is staffed by French officers whose sole mission is to prevent what they call Sahelian contamination and to ensure that France maintains its military and strategic influence across the region. The second French cell, according to General Tiani, goes by the ominous name Sahel Cell of the Élysée. Created in September 2024 under the coordination of Christophe Guillot, this cell is allegedly a sophisticated operation combining agents of France's DGSE intelligence service, high-level diplomats, and even officials from the International Organization of La Francophonie. At the center of it all is Jeremy Robert, described as the cell's main operator, with what Tiani claims are unlimited funds to destabilize the AES. But the plot doesn't stop there. Tiani warned that the Sahel region is now witnessing a disturbing rise in terrorist activity, particularly around the border areas of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. He directly linked this surge to the redeployment of French troops who had previously been expelled from Chad. According to Tiani, these troops are not just idle, they are active in organizing, funding, and inspiring instability. He did not spare neighboring states from criticism. The Republic of Benin, Tiani claims, has allowed these French forces to settle in the northern part of its territory, an area he chillingly described as free under French inspiration. This, he suggests, provides a strategic staging ground for interference in the Sahel, a region already under intense pressure from multiple internal and external actors. With two French cells reportedly operating in the heart of the Sahel, funding unlimited operations, and a rising tide of terror on the borders, General Tiani's warnings paint a picture of a region under siege, not just by armed groups, but by sophisticated foreign intelligence operations working behind the scenes. If you recall, we recently exposed how France had quietly set up bases in the Republic of Benin, an operation that began as early as February 2023, shortly after French forces were expelled from the AES countries. Acting swiftly, France negotiated an agreement with Benin's authorities and established a camp next to the Beninese military base in the northern Kandi region. This revelation confirms General Tiani's earlier statements. At the time, President Ibrahim Traoré sounded the alarm upon discovering the French presence, but his warnings were largely dismissed. After all, what could be done when the Beninese authorities had already officially granted France permission to operate on their soil? France, aware of the scrutiny, downsized its visible presence, carefully maintaining a low profile to avoid drawing attention. Yet, the reality remained. French troops continued to operate under the cover of night, moving military personnel and equipment to a strategically constructed airport in the W National Park, located precisely at the crossroads of Benin, Burkina Faso, and Niger. This airport, sitting deep in the tri-border area, provides a perfect staging ground for clandestine operations, enabling France to project influence into the heart of the Sahel without openly violating territorial sovereignty. The AES countries, despite their efforts to assert independence, now find themselves navigating a highly complex battlefield, one where foreign powers operate in the shadows, manipulating borders and fueling instability. Since then, the French footprint in Benin has quietly expanded. New military camps, officially called advanced posts by the Beninese government, have sprouted along the borders with Niger and Burkina Faso. French troops dispersed across these sites are officially labeled as instructors, but their true mission is far more covert, directing military operations and gathering intelligence. The strategy is simple, yet cunning. By spreading forces across multiple posts, France conceals its presence, avoiding the concentrated visibility that previously ignited patriotic backlash among locals. In other words, the troops are everywhere but nowhere. This is precisely why President Patrice Talon can confidently claim there are no French bases in Benin. Technically, he is correct. Yet the reality paints a darker picture. African nations continue to host the covert operations of their former colonial power, often without full public awareness. But the operations extend far beyond mere military posts. General Tiani revealed a shocking development. A meeting held on March 15, 2025, brought together Western representatives and armed groups, including Boko Haram and the Islamic State in West Africa. According to Tiani, the aim is chillingly clear: to wage an indirect war against the countries of the Confederation, starting with Niger. Nigeria, he claims, is implicated as well, allegedly welcoming the French troops expelled from Niger and providing logistical support for these operations. Key coordination points include 2 meetings in Abuja, held on January 25th and February 3rd, 2025, which Tiani identifies as pivotal in orchestrating these maneuvers. Even humanitarian actors, such as the International Committee of the Red Cross, recently expelled from Niger, have been accused of participating in the second meeting. The picture that emerges is one of meticulously orchestrated interference, with France leveraging regional actors, armed groups, and supposedly neutral organizations to destabilize the Sahelian Confederation, all while keeping its involvement hidden behind layers of plausible deniability. But despite the threats and covert operations, General Tiani emphasized that the AES Confederation is not standing idle. On the contrary, the member states have joined forces to confront this challenge head-on. He revealed that the joint AES force is operational and has already carried out actions on the ground. It is growing stronger because we have understood that our fate depends on it, he stated firmly. The intensification of actions against our states aims to bring down one, in order to stop the example we represent, he said. In other words, France and its allies are doing everything possible to halt the progress of the AES, because if the Confederation succeeds, it will send a powerful message to the world. Africa can develop and advance without Western support, sparking a potential revolution in other African nations. Yet, as we have seen time and again, the military leaders of the AES are unyielding and resolute. Their determination is why every coup attempt so far has failed. It is our hope, and the hope of all who support African sovereignty, that these attempts continue to fail, allowing the AES leaders to stay in power long enough to realize their vision for the region. What do you think about this bold stand by the AES? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth coverage.